Hey everybody, this is my quick video on how to write an effective hook. Now the first question you probably have is, what is a hook? A hook is exactly what it sounds like. It is the sentence or two in your story, in your article, your blog post, that grabs your audience, hooks them, brings them into your piece so that they keep reading. And it usually appears at the beginning. In a hard news piece, and if you saw my hard news video, how to write a hard news story, you are familiar with this inverted pyramid structure. It would appear in that lead, that top paragraph or two, usually the first and second sentences, even of your lead. And sometimes those terms are used interchangeably, the hook and the lead, but really the hook is within the lead. The lead has more meat to it. It is that paragraph that answers as many questions as possible of those 6 questions from that video. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. And a bunch of those will also appear most likely in your hook as well. So it's going to be in that lead paragraph, also sometimes called the nut graph. So you'll hear these 3 terms thrown about with each other a lot. If you're writing a feature piece, it's going to, and this is my sort of my own made up little graphic. It's going to appear probably in the introduction, maybe. You would kind of actually hit your reader with your full hook a little bit further down. It's what I call the slow draw. You're drawing it out even more. It's more than 1 or 2 sentences. You're pulling your audience in slowly, leading them on to really get them to read into that nice, long, robust feature piece. So what makes a good hook? A good hook, like I said, is attention getting. You're throwing out all the stops. You're using your best words, your most vibrant language. You're answering as many of those questions as possible to get your audience's attention and move them into that article, past that first paragraph. Because a lot of people skim and scan. And if they don't like those first few sentences, they're not going to keep scanning down or looking at the rest of the article. They're going to read, judge if it's something worth reading further, and either do that or move on. So your hook has to be attention getting, super important. It addresses the audience pain point as much as it possibly can, especially in a blog post or marketing blog post in particular, especially in not so much a hard news piece, unless you consider that pain point being, I want to know about this information, then yes, it is addressing that pain point. But if you can address the pain point or ask that initial question of your audience, have you ever run into a problem with a leaky faucet? Oh, yes, I have. This article, something a little bit better than that, but this article will address that. It makes a promise to the reader. It leads them into that lead paragraph that is making a promise to the reader, saying, this is what we're going to talk about in this article that is going to address your problem. But it doesn't give the whole story away. You don't want to put all the information at the top, right? Even in a hard news piece, you're putting a bunch of it. You're putting in the basic building blocks of the story, but then you're fleshing it out with quotes and colorful anecdotes and more information. So don't give the whole story away in the first paragraph, or in your hook, because then your audience will just move on and they won't read the rest of the story. So there's 2 essential kinds of hooks. Let me move myself so you can see. Oh, there I go. All right. That I really think of it in two kinds. There's the straight to the point hook, the one I'm talking about when you do a hard news piece or a very informational piece. You just get right to the point of your article. This is what we're going to talk about. So in if you read the hard news, if you watched the hard news video, then we did an exercise on how you would write a hard news piece about a fire. So I drew from that example. So a hook for that would be a 3-alarm fire shut down Elm Street early this morning. That is giving your audience information that will get their attention. Oh, wait, there was a fire? Oh my goodness. Where? On Elm Street. When? Early this morning. Okay, I want to know a few more details. Maybe it affects my commute. Maybe I know somebody on Elm Street. Maybe maybe I live on Elm Street and I didn't even hear the fire trucks because I was asleep. So that's your straight to the point hook. Your slow draw hook is the one I was talking about with feature writing. That's the one where you're sort of, it's almost like a story, like it is a story. You're storytelling and you're grabbing somebody's attention, much in the way that like a fiction writer or a true crime writer would grab the attention of their audience. If you were writing a longer piece about this fire because it was a historic fire, a huge fire, it warrants a feature piece, you might start with something like, it was 2 a.m. when George noticed the smoke rising from somewhere on Elm Street. I always find the best feature pieces start with hooks and leads that focus on one person's saga in the greater picture of the story. It allows the audience to identify with somebody in the story right away and pulls them in. So those are your two basic kinds of hooks. But what if you're writing for SEO? What if you're writing for search engine optimization? I know there's a lot out there that says, oh, you have to put your keyword in right away and use it right in that first paragraph and exactly the keyword that somebody would type into a search engine. I am not of that camp, and I really don't think that you can if it makes sense and works naturally with the language you're using. I think if you use your keyword in at least in the first paragraph or two, you're fine. You don't have to put it right in your hook. And I don't think you have to put it exactly as somebody would write it in a search engine search field if it doesn't sound natural to the language that you're using. Otherwise, it can sound awkward. It can turn off your audience. It can sound like keyword stuffing. So yes, if you are writing for SEO and you can put that keyword in your hook and it makes sense and it sounds good, go for it. If you can't, don't worry about it. As long as it's in those first couple paragraphs and it sounds natural to the story. So that's it. That is my quick and dirty tricks and tips for writing an effective hook. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.